A poor scholar and a marquis family came to propose marriage at the same time. My legitimate elder sister snatched the poor scholar's tarnished silver hairpin and pressed it against her neck, vowing she would rather die than marry into the noble marquis household. The entire family tried every means to dissuade her, but only I knew she had been reborn. In this life, the title of top scholar's wife will be mine. You can go to the marquis household and live out your days as a widow. My elder sister smiled with a smug expression. I pursed my lips and remained silent. Now that I had escaped poverty, it was time for me to enjoy a life of ease. Father arranged marriage proposals for both my elder sister and me at the same time, the young general from the loyal and brave marquis household, and his impoverished but proud disciple. Father, I choose young Master Zhao. When my legitimate sister snatched Zhao Shusheng's silver hairpin without a second thought. I knew she had also been reborn. The silver hairpin had already turned dark brown. In our previous life, my legitimate sister wouldn't have even glanced at it. Father was taken aback for a moment, glanced at me, and still spoke his mind. You are the legitimate daughter. You should marry into the marquis household. The Zhao family is poor, so Wn Yang is more suitable. I lowered my head to suppress the smile at the corner of my mouth, indifferently watching my father's act of earnest persuasion. My legitimate elder sister, annoyed by the nagging, fiercely pressed the broken silver hairpin against her neck, vowing to marry no one but Zhao Shusheng. With that said, there was no use in saying more. Stacks of dowry were prepared in the backyard, and due to the Zhao family's humble circumstances, most of it was arranged for my legitimate elder sister. I didn't care at all. The more dowry was prepared, the more freely the Zhao family spent. But who knows if those dozens of dowry chests for my legitimate elder sister could ever satisfy the greed in people's hearts. The marriage was thus settled, and the loyal and brave marquis's piece of jadeite jade pendant ended up in my hands. In my previous life, I had never met this so-called brother-in-law. I only heard that Shen Siji hurriedly went off to battle on his wedding night, fought for several months, and returned with half his face burned and one leg crippled. He was left with the empty title of loyal and brave general, while all his actual power had long been stripped away. My elder sister, being proud and accustomed to domineering, inevitably grew resentful at the thought of staying home all day to care for a half-cripple. If Shen Siji had died outright, it would have been better. After 3 years of widowhood, the legitimate eldest sister could have returned to her maiden home. But dragging on in this half-dead state wore away all of her legitimate eldest sister's patience. She cried, made a scene, and even threw tantrums, but her father, fearing criticism and being condemned by his court colleagues, forbade the legitimate eldest sister from seeking a divorce. Watching Zhao Shusheng achieve top honors in all 3 levels of the imperial examinations, his future appeared boundless. In the end, my elder sister still took her anger out on me. She went crazy. Rushing into the top scholar's residence with disheveled hair, wildly swinging a kitchen knife. I am clearly the legitimate daughter. I should have been the top scholar's wife. I died a violent death under her wild slashes, and she laughed uproariously at the sky before ultimately choosing to hang herself. After being reborn, she couldn't wait to choose the marriage with the Zhao family. I warned her that Zhao Shusheng was not a good man, but she didn't listen, which was to be expected. The 6th day of the 6th month, the day meticulously chosen by my elder sister, she knew that Shen Siji would be temporarily dispatched on a campaign that day. I was welcomed into the loyal and brave marquis's residence, and as soon as I finished kneeling in reverence, I heard a rapid sound of horse hooves outside. The matron supporting me remained composed and promptly escorted me to the bridal chamber. In a short while, a pair of black boots embroidered with golden threads appeared before me. Shen Siji walked in a hurry, but deliberately slowed down the speed of lifting my mandarin duck red veil, his movements gentle. Madam, I apologize, the rebels in the northwest have risen up, and I must set off immediately. The red wedding robe had already been replaced with armor. He wore a long sword at his waist, his jet-black hair tied up high, and his sharply defined face appeared particularly stern. I only knew that after his face was disfigured. He was described by the public as the ghost-faced general, but I did not know that he originally possessed such handsome features. I paused for a moment, then turned and took out a silk handkerchief. "Military affairs are urgent, General, you need not worry about me, but since we're leaving in a hurry, take some pastries to stave off hunger." I wrapped the Western-style pastries on the table in the silk handkerchief and carefully placed them in his hand. As my fingertips lightly brushed against him, he seemed to tremble slightly. "I've wronged you." I shook my head, not wanting to say more, but when I looked up and saw him tucking the pastries into his robe, I couldn't help but mention someone's name. "Is Deputy General Center Yuan by the General's side?" What's wrong?" The army was about to assemble, and announcements kept coming from outside, yet Shen Siji didn't rush me. I casually made up a reason, saying that Center Yuan had abandoned his devoted wife, which reflected poorly on his character, and I hoped he would be cautious in dealing with him. In just a few words, I wasn't sure if Shen Siji took it to heart, especially since some of it was merely my speculation. In the previous life, the Shen family army relied on their swift and powerful momentum to pacify the northwest, driving the enemy forces 100 miles away and bringing complete peace to the people. However, Shen Siji suffered heavy losses. After the grand reward, he became increasingly despondent. Meanwhile, Center Yuan rose rapidly through the ranks, eventually reaching the position of the highest-ranking military official, which undoubtedly involved some intricate maneuvers. After a long silence, Shen Siji raised his hand and took the most inconspicuous hairpin from my hair, tucking it into his palm. "Wait for me to return." The Zhongyong Marquis's family was known for their loyalty and valor. The old Marquis and the heir of the Marquis household were stationed at the border year-round. Their second son, Shen Siji, followed them to the battlefield at the age of 13. As a woman, his mother never complained on his behalf, stating plainly that a true man should aspire to make his mark in the world, having been reborn. I don't want to waste my time again. Just as I was pondering what I should do, my mother-in-law summoned me. "Wanyan, this is the household management of the estate. From today onward, I entrust it to you." I was taken aback and instinctively refused. With my mother-in-law still alive and my sister-in-law also in the household, how could the responsibility of managing the household affairs possibly fall on me? "Don't worry, this was decided after I discussed it with your sister-in-law." I was even more confused. My sister-in-law is the daughter of a merchant family, and half of the shops in the capital belong to her maternal family. It could be said that they are extremely wealthy. Logically speaking, whether in terms of background or seniority, she is more suitable than I am to manage the household affairs. Your sister-in-law needs to manage the estates and shops outside, and she is too busy to handle everything. My mother-in-law, with her kind and gentle expression, was not angered by my refusal and patiently explained to me in detail. "Moreover, having you manage the household affairs is also Sias' intention. Yesterday, he specifically sent someone to instruct this." My heart tightened. Shen Siji bid me farewell yesterday and set off directly. I never expected that in his haste, he would still mention the household affairs to my mother-in-law. Was it because he was afraid I would lose face on the day of the wedding? The groom embarking on a distant campaign, no matter the reason, I would become the laughingstock of noble ladies in the capital during their leisure conversations. In her previous life, my elder sister also felt embarrassed by this matter and gradually grew estranged from the Marquis household, but in the previous life, the household affairs were clearly still managed by my mother-in-law. "Mother, I truly cannot manage such a large Marquis household well. I am a child born of a concubine, and my birth mother died in childbirth, raised by the stepmother, who only provided me with a meal. Naturally no one taught me how to manage the family estate. What does that matter? I will teach you myself." Wanyan, the Zhongyong Marquis manor is different from other noble families. Here, women can have their own world, live freely and unrestrained. From now on, don't let sire bully you. For the first time in my life, someone had high expectations of me, so of course I gave it my all. The household tradition of the Marquis of loyalty and courage is very upright, without the intricate complexities of aristocratic families. Whether it was the old Marquis or my elder brother, neither took a concubine. Finding one true love and confidant in life was enough. Men defending the country against enemies on the battlefield, and women managing the household affairs at home. This was a harmony within the household that I had never imagined. My mother-in-law taught me the ways of managing the household, while my sister-in-law taught me how to use the abacus for bookkeeping. Having lived 2 lives, this was the first time I felt treated as one of their own, and I couldn't help but wonder why such a fine young lady from the Marquis household was still unsatisfied. People often say merchants are lowly, but they don't realize that without us merchants maneuvering behind the scenes, how could there be peace and prosperity relying solely on a few smooth-talking civil officials? My sister-in-law clicked the abacus beads loudly, calculated the final cost for provisions and supplies, and with a flourish of her pen, ordered them to be sent to the northern frontier. Sister-in-law, you and big brother. Actually, I don't quite understand. Logically speaking, no matter how wealthy merchants might be, they typically wouldn't be accepted into noble families like the loyal and brave Marquis's household. I'm attracted to him as a person, he's interested in my wealth, and coincidentally we both took a liking to each other. Neither of us is at a disadvantage. Sister-in-law is straightforward and speaks her mind, which actually left me at a loss for words. Wanyan, you live too cautiously. Don't let second young master's free-spirited nature take advantage of you. I was somewhat bewildered. After just a brief encounter, I found Shinsiji to be upright and serious. Why did both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law think he would take advantage of me? On the day of my return visit, my sister-in-law accompanied me back. Silks, satins, gold, silver, and jade were packed into several carriages as if they cost nothing. It's fine. Your sister-in-law is so rich that money is the least of her worries. Making you look good is no problem at all. From a distance, I saw my legitimate sister holding Zhao Shusheng's hand, eagerly waiting at the mansion gate, but when she saw the carts of lavish gifts behind me, her pretty face instantly fell. Sister, you're not the same as before now. Even returning home requires countless invitations before we can see you. Just look at what time it is already. I didn't pay her any attention, only respectfully bowed to my parents. A fish that keeps its mouth shut is least likely to be caught by the hook. It's best to let her have her pointless arguments. It must be hard to endure the lonely nights alone. My legitimate elder sister clearly had no intention of letting me off, walking beside me and whispering one sentence after another. Don't say your elder sister doesn't look out for you. The battlefield is perilous. It's only just begun. You'd better get used to this kind of dull life sooner rather than later. What do you mean? I stopped and asked. My elder sister smiled smugly. Her eyes filled with unconcealed pity. The northwestern barbarians are said to have been raised on human blood, each one fierce and skilled in battle. The second young master of the Shen family, after all, comes from a noble background, delicate and precious. I'm afraid he won't be able to withstand them and might meet with misfortune. How dare you? I sternly cut off her words. Sister, what do you mean by this? Our dynasty's soldiers have left their homes and guarded the borderlands day after day, all for the sake of ensuring the people can live in peace and stability. As a daughter of a noble family, you show no consideration for the common people of the realm. Instead, you have the audacity to praise the enemy's bravery and curse the commander of our army. What is your intention? My elder sister's mouth hung wide open, perhaps because it was the first time she had been scolded, and by me, whom she had always looked down upon, so she was momentarily stunned. How dare you defy the heavens? A lowly wretch like you actually thinks you're someone important. Who are you to lecture WNU? My stepmother raised her hand to slap me, but it was firmly intercepted by the attendant beside my elder sister-in-law. Madam Sue, watch your words. The lowly wretch you speak of is none other than the second young madam of our Marquis manor. For a moment, the atmosphere in the Sue residence grew tense, with swords drawn and bows bent. Zhao Shusheng stepped in to mediate and smooth things over, skillfully dismissing the eldest sister's nonsense as nothing more than misplaced concern. I knew all too well just how worldly and slick this future top scholar could be, watching him navigate effortlessly between the 3 families. My father's face quickly lit up with delight. The legitimate mother's loving gaze shifted between my legitimate sister and Zhao Shusheng, not forgetting to shoot me a couple of sharp glances in between. Sister, your brother-in-law is truly a scholar at heart, and he treats me well. On our wedding night, He handed over the household management to me and promised that he wouldn't take any new concubines after me. I nodded silently. In my previous life, Zhao Shuxing had said the same words to me. It's just that the authority to manage the household will turn into a heavy burden of debt, and as for not taking in any new concubines, well, it's rather thrilling to think about. The one he truly wants has long been right there in the mansion. There's a saying in the capital, Zhao Shuxing's looks rival those of Pan, and elegant, refined, and dashingly charming. Orphaned from a young age, he was adopted by a widow, grateful for her kindness. He devoted himself to diligent study in order to repay his foster mother's grace. In my previous life, I was captivated by this stunning beauty and moved by his benevolence and filial piety. But now, Zhao Shuxing is sitting right in front of me, side by side with my legitimate sister, uttering just the right words of flattery, the same face, yet no matter how I look at it, it seems detestable, hypocritical, greasy, and cloying. Suddenly, I thought of Shun Siji's sharply defined face, a different kind of handsomeness, carrying a strong sense of aggression, yet resolute and steady. I am not favored by my maternal family. My stepmother and father have eyes only for my legitimate sister. Not even bothering to speak an extra word to me, my elder sister-in-law sat to the side, leisurely flipping through the gift list, deliberately rustling the pages loudly. This gradually dampened my stepmother's enthusiasm for conversation, to the point where she almost pressed her eyes against the gift list. With so many things, there's probably no space to put them here. My sister-in-law suddenly said this, her eyes darting around before she pursed her lips, acting as if no one else was around. She directly tore off a small piece of the gift list and handed it to the servant behind her. Forget it, just keep these. With the duck that was almost in her mouth flying away, how could the legal mother sit still? She had been whispering with her legitimate sister earlier, probably scheming about how to spend my return gift. How come the gift list hasn't been approved, and the items haven't even entered the Su residence? Is Madame Su trying to snatch them? If she were merely the daughter of a merchant, the Su family would never have looked twice at her, but as the wife of the heir to the Marquis of Loyalty and Courage, even her father would have to show her some respect. They have money and connections, truly someone you can't afford to offend. Let's go. All this superficial talk is so boring. My sister-in-law took me away. That day, I suddenly understood what she meant by living too cautiously. The poor cannot contend with the rich. Merchants cannot contend with officials. My sister-in-law possesses both, giving her solid confidence. My legitimate sister or the Su family dare not provoke her, but that doesn't mean they won't take their anger out on me. In the coming months, I heard that my legitimate sister attended various gatherings of noble young ladies. At poetry gatherings, she arranged flowers, discussed tea and paintings, winning people over and building connections. My legitimate sister boasted that her husband was the reincarnation of the god of literature, and in her conversations, she already carried herself as the future top scholar's wife. When I heard her slandering me at the gathering, I was learning archery with the third son of the Marquis household, Shun Sueji. At just 9 years old, already carried himself with the demeanor of a small adult. He had vowed early on to follow in the footsteps of his father and brothers. Willing to shed blood and sacrifice on the battlefield, shattering iron armor in 100 battles. Second sister-in-law, is she really your elder sister? Being young and having grown up in an environment of brotherly harmony, Shun Sueji was not yet familiar with the unsavory undercurrents of a deep, complex household. My elder sister's slanderous words about me were indeed rather harsh. She claimed that when I was at home, I was lazy and gluttonous, unlearned and unskilled. Always thinking about sneaking out to have fun and keeping company with all sorts of disreputable people. Not only did I neglect my studies, but I was also extremely lax in showing filial respect to my parents. She described it all in such vivid detail, making me out to be a female prodigal heir. Whoosh, I shot an arrow, hitting the bullseye. Shun Sui praised me, but he was still muttering the same thing as before. Second sister-in-law, you're clearly very diligent and learn everything quickly. You taught well. I rubbed his head, signaling him not to mind what others say. Shun Sueji frowned in confusion. I smiled and simply said the time wasn't right yet. My sister-in-law always takes me with her when she goes out, never putting on a show but genuinely building connections. Along the way, she helps me praise my legitimate sister for her virtue and eagerness to learn, showering her with compliments from all sides. I'm so busy I barely have time to catch my breath. But my days are incredibly fulfilling. When I have a moment to count the days, I realize my legitimate sister must be well on her way to becoming even more virtuous and studious by now. Zhao Shuxing is indeed a promising talent, having grown up in adversity and journeyed all the way from a remote, impoverished village to the capital. Yet, the allure of glamour can easily dazzle the eyes and make one lose their footing. In his previous life, after this poor scholar married me, he felt as if he were just one step away from reaching the heavens, and he worked diligently, seizing every moment to write furiously, and the method he came up with was to wear me down. During the day, he studied diligently, leaving all the household chores to me alone, not to mention sweeping, cleaning, and cooking. He also had his adoptive mother constantly pressuring and supervising me. At night, it was even better. Zhao Shuxing, under the guise of not wanting to waste a single moment, made me read books aloud by his ear all night long. I read every book on the shelf until my eyes were blurry with exhaustion. He was snoring like thunder, already lost in his dream of becoming the top scholar, now that this virtuous and diligent pursuit of study has been passed on to my elder sister. Let the flowers dazzle her eyes even more. The Jade Treasure Studio under my sister-in-law's name produces nothing but masterpieces, items that even money cannot buy in the capital. I deliberately selected a unique set as a gift for my elder sister and sent a message emphasizing our sisterly bond, stating that any of her friends visiting the Jade Treasure Studio could reserve items. Let her win first, then let her lose, save your strength to endure, and in the end, eliminate the root of the problem. The business principles my elder sister-in-law taught me should apply the same way to my legitimate elder sister. I'm tired of praising her. My legitimate elder sister has been lifted as high as she can be. Let's wait and see if the rotten fruit will fall from the tree on its own without us touching or shaking it. Second sister-in-law, here's your letter. Shen Suiji pouted and complained that his second brother had given me something again. But there was a mischievous smile on his face. Let me take a look. Little brother, what good thing did second brother give you this time? It's nothing, just some little trinkets. I turned my body slightly, putting the wooden box away, trying to avoid Shen Suiji's probing gaze. Impossible. Second brother is the best at picking gifts. When he used to be away on military campaigns, he would always bring me local trinkets upon his return. Who would have thought that after getting a second sister-in-law, not to mention trinkets, I'm not even worthy of a letter anymore? Her words were filled with endless sorrow. As he spoke, he took a few steps back, bowed, and then took his leave. My beloved wife, I hope this letter finds you well. The same opening line every time, yet it inexplicably brings me a sense of comfort and reassurance. Shen Siji's letter was not long, and it only spoke of trivial matters. In the letter, he spoke in a gentle and detailed manner, as if forgetting that we had only met once. Perhaps it was because his handwriting was too beautiful, with sharp strokes that conveyed a touch of tenderness, that I couldn't bear to read it too quickly. After silently reading it 2 or 3 times, I slowly set it down and went to open the small wooden box beside me. It is a piece of amber the size of a fingernail, with a small red insect trapped inside, which is quite adorable. The conditions in the Northwest are not as good as in the capital, but the lack of material comforts does not stop Shen Siji from giving me gifts, small daggers, unique leather goods, unfamiliar Tibetan silver, and some distinctive spices. Shen Siji and the entire Zhongyonghu mansion have shown me the utmost respect. I cherish it deeply. My heart surges, wishing him well, but the war situation in the Northwest is not good. The enemy forces are delaying in every possible way, attacking here and there without a clear strategy, relying on the natural barrier of the Wei River. They only provoke but avoid a decisive battle. My sister-in-law was clicking the abacus beads loudly, so agitated that she almost flung the beads right into my face. To hell with it, if they won't release the grain, then we'll take matters into our own hands. All the stock from Jade Treasure Pavilion was bought up by the noble ladies your sister brought along. We've got plenty of money." With a flick of her wrist, she pulled out the thickest ledger and fiercely circled several locations. "Indeed, this dynasty values civil affairs over military matters. The emperor is timid, focusing solely on defense without any offensive strategies, delaying tactics. As long as we hold the border, whether to fight or not is optional. Anyway, the court is not providing provisions. If we win, it's again a business with minimal investment and maximum returns. His Majesty only wishes to avoid mistakes in his lifetime, but this has made life difficult for the border soldiers. They endure harsh conditions, constantly on high alert for battle, living a life with no end in sight. Now, even provisions are running short. The enemy forces kept changing their positions, making it difficult for our dynasty's soldiers to settle down and cook, so most of them had to rely on dry rations. The autumn heat persisted, and the weather remained scorching hot. Although my elder sister-in-law had wealth and grain, she couldn't withstand the spoilage of dry rations along the journey. Use soybean oil instead of vegetable oil. It can be preserved for a longer time. Just when she was at a loss, I made a suggestion. If there's one thing I gained in my previous life, it was staying up all night reading, which gave me some strange and unusual knowledge. Soybean oil has a strong fishy smell, and very few noble families in the capital use it. But in impoverished villages, the common people use it to preserve food. The reason is none other than that soybean oil is more effective than rapeseed oil in preserving food. Really, after asking just one question, my elder brother's wife stood up and went to prepare the provisions without looking back. The transport of private grain is not under the jurisdiction of the imperial court. For a journey of 1,000 miles, only the Marquis's own people can be dispatched. Since the mother-in-law is advanced in age and the elder sister-in-law has to manage many affairs in the capital, the responsibility of protecting the grain fell upon Shinsueji. At 9 years old, Shinsueji was tasked with protecting the grain for the first time, and the young boy's face was filled with uncontrollable excitement. "Protect your second sister-in-law, listen to her, and don't act impulsively," the mother-in-law repeatedly reminded him before he left. "Actually, whether I'm involved in protecting the grain is secondary. I know my mother-in-law wants me to take this opportunity to meet Shinsueji. My husband going off to war on our wedding night has always been a source of guilt for my mother-in-law. She has always felt she let me down, after 2 lifetimes. This is the first time I've left the capital, and it would be a lie to say I'm not feeling lost. Everyone in the Marquis's household is highly capable." Along the way, Shinsueji followed the route planned by my sister-in-law and arranged everything perfectly. I can't quite describe the feeling in my heart. In my previous life with the Zhao family, I cooked for Zhao Shusheng, accompanied him through his diligent studies, living a life of self-satisfaction. But in the Marquis household, I genuinely feel that I'm not doing enough and only wish to work even harder. Sister-in-law, I know you're eager to see second brother. But you must also take care of your health. It's more like this half-grown child has been taking care of my emotions all along, rather than saying Shinsueji should listen to me. During the day, we traveled, and at night I kept studying how to compress military rations, truly busy without a moment to spare. The Marquis's household has treated me very well, and I also want to do something for the soldiers. Unexpectedly, Shinsueji actually laughed. "You don't need to feel so much pressure, second sister-in-law. With my second brother's temperament, the more you act naturally and be yourself, the more he'll be delighted. On the contrary, if you keep hesitating and being overly cautious like this, I guarantee second brother will take advantage of you." Bully. This is the 3rd time I've heard this, beneath the solemn and imposing silver armor. How is it that the people of the Marquis's household always describe him as if he's utterly shameless? You'll understand once you get to know second brother better. Shinsueji raised an eyebrow and flashed a smug grin. By the time we reached the northwestern border, I had mostly figured out how to make compressed military rations. After grinding the rice and flour, we mixed in large amounts of liquor, vinegar, salt, and oil. This not only reduced the volume of the food but also ensured it would stay preserved for as long as possible. Shinsueji ate 2 pancakes in a row, exclaiming how delicious they were. Thanks to Zhao Shusheng's picky foster mother, I was forced to develop excellent culinary skills in my previous life. Now that I can offer a small bit of help, I feel genuinely happy. That kind of joy cannot be compared to simply managing a few household chores or cooking a few meals. I can feel myself gradually integrating into the Marquis's household, experiencing a sense of collaborative coexistence. The final leg of the grain transport must be carried out at night. I must also abandon the carriage to avoid detection by enemy forces. The temperature difference between day and night in the northwest is significant. As I journey across the wilderness under the moonlight, the wind stings my face sharply. I knew the conditions in the northwest were poor, but I never imagined they would be this terrible. The barren land is utterly desolate. Along the way, I hardly saw anyone, and even the few people I did see were emaciated and gaunt. Not wanting to delay the army, I kept my head down and trudged forward numbly, leaning on the wagon shaft. After walking for about an hour, "Sister-in-law, shall I arrange for a few people to accompany you and rest here for a while?" "No need, let's hurry on our way." Her steps began to falter. But the flickering lights of the camp ahead grew closer and closer. I don't know why, but I suddenly really wanted to see Shinsiji. I suddenly missed him so much. Even though we had only met once, second brother, blinded by the wind and sand, I vaguely saw a figure on horseback charging toward me through the hazy gray. The enemy forces are on the move, our army has broken camp overnight, and the military provisions are being rerouted. Shinsiji raised his horsewhip and pointed to another location. After all, it was the tacit understanding between brothers. Shinsuaji understood immediately. "What about second sister-in-law? She will go with me. You take care of the provisions." What happened next is a bit hazy to me. In a daze, it seemed someone lifted me onto a horse. A large hand wrapped around my waist, shielding me completely. "General, the wind howled, perhaps afraid I wouldn't hear clearly. Shinsiji leaned close to my ear and said, "The situation was sudden, I couldn't send a message, so I came to fetch you myself. I'll take you to my military tent shortly. It's been a long journey, please rest first." "My lady," my heart trembled slightly, and then a fleeting thought slipped through my mind. "Are you planning to force a crossing of the Wei River?" Shinsiji didn't expect me to ask this question. He was momentarily stunned but then nodded. "Time waits for no one. The enemy forces show signs of withdrawing. I've already ordered the troops to prepare to cut off their retreat. This battle will settle things once and for all." Thoughts raced through my mind as I tried hard to recall the events of my previous life. Victory is certain, Shinsiji's strategic planning is no illusion. But, is General Center still here? He leaked military secrets and was imprisoned yesterday. What military intelligence? I instinctively asked. My grip on Shinsiji's hand unconsciously tightening. "General, believe me, I've thought of something. I was speaking incoherently, and time was running out. I have no idea how Shinsiji sees me. Even I find myself utterly ridiculous. We are only husband and wife in name. When it comes to military affairs, I'm probably less trusted than even one of his personal guards. Rattan armor. Our army has developed rattan armor and plans to use it to cross the river. Shinsiji trusts me." The joyful emotion had not yet welled up before it was immediately replaced by a sense of foreboding. In his previous life, his face was burned by raging flames, and after the battle, he became disfigured beyond recognition. Fire, rattan armor meeting fire, his thoughts became scattered and chaotic, and the panicked thoughts made his teeth begin to chatter. I don't know if I made myself clear. I only knew that Shinsiji gave me a deep look before he left. "Wait for me to come back." The rattan armor crossed the river, and the river was covered with oil. The river water, as if boiling, surged all night long. I clenched my hands tightly. Though utterly exhausted, I had no intention of closing my eyes. In the latter half of the night, Shinsuaji delivered the provisions, without even taking a sip of tea. He detoured to transport them to the opposite shore. Early the next morning, I mechanically taught a few women how to make compressed rations. Forcing my scattered thoughts to focus, before the general set out with the troops yesterday, he suddenly gathered everyone in the command tent. I wonder what it was about. Aunt Wang is the most talkative among the women. I heard she has 2 sons serving under Shinsiji. She went on and on, her words filled with worry. Madam, aren't you concerned? Worrying won't solve the problem. What we need to do is ensure they have no worries. I don't understand military campaigns. And worrying won't solve the problem either. Instead of being anxious all day, it's better to do something practical. Before coming, I asked my sister-in-law for some saplings. The book says that cypress, locust, cartonwood, and sand willow are drought-resistant, easy to grow, and can also help combat wind and sand. Smoke and fire rose from the scorched riverbanks, making the already grey and hazy land even more chaotic. Our army advanced over 2,000 li northward, crossed Mount Liho, and inflicted heavy losses on the enemy, completely stripping them of control over the northwestern region. The news of victory was uplifting, and on our side, the planting of greenery had also achieved some success. After delivering the last batch of provisions, those who remained in the camp began to busy themselves with preparations for the victory celebration. The triumphant return of the army took place 3 days later, outside the tents. A crowd had long gathered, eagerly awaiting their arrival. I blended inconspicuously into the crowd, so tightly packed that I could barely keep my footing. But when I looked up, I saw the most eye-catching Shinsiji in the army. He rode at the forefront on a tall horse, his gaze fixed straight ahead without straying. Amid the cheers, welcoming the return, however, as Shinsiji passed by me, he suddenly tugged on the reins. "Madam, come," amid the cheers and laughter, as if bewitched. I reached out my hand to him and rode back to the camp tent together with him. By evening, Shinsiji did not go anywhere. There were still many matters outside that needed to be dealt with, but he only gave a few casual instructions before starting to tell me about the events on the battlefield. Center Yuan colluded with the enemy and betrayed the nation, using retreat as a means to advance. He deliberately bribed the enemy forces to feign withdrawal, attempting to coordinate with his personal guards to trap Shinsiji like a turtle in a jar. Thanks to your reminder, I kept a close watch on him along the way, but I was still careless. I never expected that the river surface had been doused with oil in advance. That day, after Shinsiji left, he immediately gathered his troops and redeployed them overnight. He deliberately set the river surface ablaze first and, amidst the flames and smoke, took a detour to the enemy's rear, catching them completely off guard. "This is the second time you've saved me." The enemy forces were utterly defeated, and he was there too, safe and sound. "That's really good." That night, he didn't leave and stayed in the same tent with me. I was so embarrassed that I stood there frozen like a wooden stake for a long time, not knowing what to do with my hands and feet. "Maybe, sister-in-law Wang and I." Before I could finish speaking, Shinsiji shook his head, dismissing my idea. "They are having a family reunion. You are my wife, what business do you have joining in? Besides, as the commander of the army returning victorious, if you leave me alone in an empty room, how would that look to others?" The military cot was as small as could be. Shinsiji held me as we slept, with half of his body hanging off the edge, yet he still managed to let out soft snores. Yang Yang. Such an intimate form of address was not common among noble families. My face flushed bright red. And within a few days, I came to understand what it meant to have the carefree and unrestrained nature of the second young master of the Shin family. He would take me on tours all over the northwest under the pretense of teaching me how to ride a horse. The Gobi Desert and the Alpine Lakes are magnificent landscapes I could never have imagined in the capital city. One day, I will drive the Hu people beyond the Yang Mountains, so they dare not invade again. In the distance, the snow-capped mountains stretched continuously, and the glacier was spectacular. Shinsiji made this bold declaration. As my thoughts wandered, before I could even react, a pair of strong arms had already wrapped around my waist. "Where is your horse?" I asked belatedly. "Sent it back." Shinsiji grinned boldly. "If I didn't send it back, how could I share a ride with you?" Yang Yang. I had long grown accustomed to his sudden displays of affection. Yet I couldn't help the warmth rising to the tips of my ears. Another 10+ days passed in the military camp as the weather gradually turned cooler. Strange to say, the charcoal that was always kept on hand suddenly stopped being supplied one night. Is it not enough? But it clearly wasn't all used up during the day. Cold. Shinsiji raised a mischievous smile, taking off his cloak and draping it over me. "Is this better?" The masculine aura enveloped my entire body. It was Shinsiji's unique scent. Not only was I no longer cold, but my heart began to burn with anxiety. "General, aren't you cold?" "I am cold." He embraced me from behind, burying his head against my neck, his gentle breath brushing past my ear. "Yang Yang, you and I are husband and wife. It doesn't seem appropriate for you to still call me General now." He spent the entire night, on that small bed, coaxing me to call him fourth brother. I tugged at his lapel and argued with him, but I was afraid of pushing him off the bed if I used too much force. In my panic, I ended up biting a mark on his shoulder. "You only know how to bully me. You're so mean. I bet it was you who had the brazier removed last night." Shinsiji raised the corner of his mouth, pulling me into his embrace with one hand while casually resting the other behind his head. Then, "Yang Yang, why don't you tell me why I had someone remove the charcoal brazier?" "Why else?" The moment I thought about how I would snuggle in his arms for warmth every morning, I understood the reason perfectly. The man's heartbeat was strong and steady against me. He was cunning, slowly making me fall for him. A warm, moist kiss landed on my forehead. After the playful tussle, Shinsiji rested his chin on the top of my head. Whether it was my imagination or not, his breathing seemed to grow heavier with the movement. "Yang Yang, this bed is too hard. Tomorrow, I will give the order to return to the capital." Shinsiji dispatched a small team of guards to accompany us as we set off ahead of schedule to return to the capital. When they arrived, they were all spirited young men, but by the time they returned, they had grown a bit darker and thinner, and even their skin had become noticeably rougher. Along the way, I took the initiative to handle the meals, making the most of local ingredients and trying various ways to ensure they ate well during the journey. Second sister-in-law's cooking skills are truly unmatched. In the future, I want to marry someone who can cook just like her. "Here, I'll give you 2 cooks, no need to get married then." Shinsiji ate his meal and said expressionlessly. The next day, I noticed his third brother was nowhere to be seen. I sent him back. There are many matters in the military camp, so I let him follow along to gain experience. "He is your brother, so what?" Shinsiji shrugged nonchalantly as he finished the last bite of his meal. "I'm someone who guards my food, and I even prefer to eat alone." On the outskirts of the capital, the closer we got to home, the more timid I felt. I bent over and carefully shaved Shinsiji's stubble, but his hands grew increasingly unruly, moving slowly from my lower back toward the front. "Stop fooling around. We have to enter the palace to see the emperor tomorrow, so let's make sure you look presentable. Are you disgusted with me?" Shinsiji clicked his tongue, crossed his arms, and looked at me with a leisurely expression. "Do you like pretty boys, the kind of flashy but useless type like Zhao Shusheng?" What are you talking about?" Having been away from the capital for several months, I had almost forgotten about the matter concerning my legitimate elder sister and Zhao Shusheng. Now that Shinsiji brought it up, alarm bells started ringing in my head. It seems the imperial examination is just a few months away. Seeing that I remained silent, Shinsiji narrowed his ink-black eyes, stroked his clean-shaven chin, and curled his lips. "Yang Yang, I wasn't born with dark skin. It's just that the sun in the northwest is too strong. Once we return to the residence and I recuperate for a while, my complexion will lighten again." I can't even describe it as shocking anymore. How did Shinsiji manage to sound so pitiful? Seeing that he was about to speak again, I quickly covered his mouth. "Can you stop talking nonsense? What does Zhao Shusheng have to do with me? If you keep acting like this, my sister-in-law will definitely laugh at me when we get back." Furious, I bit his shoulder again. This big rascal has made me forget his majestic and imposing image as a great general. Shinsiji entered the palace to see the emperor and only leisurely left after escorting me to the entrance of the marquis's residence. "Our second young master's eyes are practically glued to you, unable to bear even a short separation." My sister-in-law nudged me with her elbow, her eyes full of laughter. "Sister-in-law, hey, don't try to sweet-talk me. I'm not your family's second young master. That won't work on me." She repeatedly waved her hands and took several steps back. But both brothers are the same. Once they've set their sights on someone, they really can't hide it at all. Just wait, there are plenty of good days ahead. No sooner had I stepped into the mansion than I heard that my legitimate sister had come to visit. Before I could even change out of my coarse linen clothes, she had already pushed past the servants and stood right in front of me. I heard my younger sister also went to the front lines. I was so worried, though her words sounded concerned. Her eyes were full of mockery as they swept over my coarse linen clothes several times. She even lifted a silk handkerchief to cover her nose and mouth. General Shun must have received many rewards upon his triumphant return. Don't say your elder sister didn't give you a heads up. This man is already finished. If you're wise, save some silver. After all, there's still a long road ahead. As she spoke, she stretched out her hand toward me. If you can't manage your silver, you can always leave it with your elder sister. We're family, I'll keep it safe for you. I shook my head and scoffed, looking at the sunken hollows of her eyes. The layers of heavy powder couldn't hide her exhaustion. I suppose she must have been dulled by reading and cooking, still thinking that Shen Siji had returned with half his life lost. Just like in the previous life, sister came to borrow money from the Marquis's household. Is it because you have no silver to bribe the noble families? Upon hearing this, my elder sister's expression froze, looking indescribably unpleasant. Zhao Shusheng's adoptive mother, though a peasant woman, was quite resourceful. No matter how others looked down on her, she had an incredibly strong mindset and was determined to mingle with aristocratic families. Families that have been wealthy for generations would never easily accept the Zhao family. On top of that, I relentlessly praised my legitimate sister for her virtue. And she gradually began to face backlash. With no way out, she had no choice but to grit her teeth and press on. Thanks to my efforts to stir things up, the noble lady's standards grew increasingly higher. Jewelry and ornaments were only accepted if they were from Jade Treasure Studio, which steadily increased the legitimate eldest sister's expenses. Her dowry then came into play, flowing like water as it was converted into valuable gifts, used in various ways to grease the wheels. As someone who had lived an extra lifetime, the legitimate eldest sister, believing that Zhao Shusheng could pass the imperial exams with high honors and change his destiny, naturally did not begrudge these expenses. It was said that every month she would return to her maternal home several times to ask her legitimate mother for money, making great sacrifices to become the wife of a top scholar. Little do they know, wealth is but an external possession, as long as she is willing. Zhao Shusheng's position as the top scholar can be secured through her alone. Of course, I won't tell her about this matter now. Your brother-in-law is destined to be the top scholar. If you know what's good for you, take the initiative to offer me money to handle things. Otherwise, you might end up losing both your husband's family and your own. Using the Marquis's silver to pave the Zhao family's path to officialdom. I'm afraid my sister fails to grasp the implications. Don't you dare use the Marquis's name to intimidate me, my elder sister sneered, leaning close to whisper in my ear. Let me tell you this, Shen Siji has been at war for months. By the time he returns, his health will be ruined. He's no longer a real man. I raised my hand and slapped her so hard she spun halfway around. After all this time, you still can't control that filthy mouth of yours, if you insist on spreading lies about others' private affairs. Shall I go ask Madame Zhao about your intimate moments with Zhao Shusheng? You, my elder sister covered half of her face, flushed red but unable to utter a word. She spoke with a stern and mocking tone, as if she and Zhao Shusheng were living in perfect happiness. Zhao Shusheng would never consummate the marriage with her. All decision-making power in the Zhao family lay in the hands of Madame Zhao, and my elder sister had no say whatsoever. You'll just be guarding an empty marriage. My elder sister shrieked in a shrill voice. I won't be the one, you're the one who'll be a widow, I replied, but as I turned around, I caught sight of Shen Siji's strange expression. Physical damage, not a man, living as a widow. Shen Siji didn't even change out of his court robes, carrying me into the room and pressing me against the wall. After closing the door, a series of questions came tumbling out one after another. Since you just returned to the residence, do you want to see mother first? No need. His gaze was fixed intently on me, as if trying to see right through me. Let's settle the matter of dignity first. This was said by Su Wanyue, not me. Why are you taking it out on me? I covered my face, wishing I had the ability to burrow into the ground and disappear. Look at all the wonderful things my legitimate sister has done. in the previous life, when Shinshiji returned with a lame leg, it probably affected that more private area as well. I suspect he never consummated their marriage until his death. Times have changed, so how can we still speak of it in the same terms? Perhaps it was because of my strange expression that Shinshiji also became upset. Yang, let me ask you, since you married into the Marquis's household, how have we treated you? I pursed my lips, thought it over carefully, and finally replied, my mother treated me very well and taught me how to manage the household. My sister-in-law also took good care of me, teaching me how to keep accounts and win people over. And my third brother also respected me. It was from him that I learned the skill of archery. After a long silence, perhaps because he didn't hear me continue, Shinshiji's mouth gradually turned downward. You've talked about so many people. But you haven't mentioned me at all. The arm around my waist tightened slightly, pulling me closer until I was sitting on Shinshiji's lap. You treat me very well, respect and honor me, giving me all the face I need in the Marquis household. Shinshiji raised an eyebrow, as if saying, is that all? It is my fault as a husband. I should have been the one to start this. I have looked into it, and Center Yuan did not abandon his wife of humble origins. I also understand, Yang, that you were hinting for me not to take a concubine. I can promise you this, in this lifetime, there will only be you. Is that acceptable? My jaw dropped wide open. What on earth did he understand? That was a lie I casually made up on our wedding day, just to make Shinshiji wary of General Center. After all the twists and turns, how did it turn into a promise not to take concubines? No, what did he say? In this lifetime, there is only you, Yang. The trees you planted in the northwest have sprouted new buds. It's time for us to plant our own tree. My heart delights in you, and I hope for our affection to be mutual. Without excessive words, Shinshiji was like a military commander in battle. Actions speak louder than words. He is very manly. I don't want to be a widow like my elder sister. I thought it was already a great fortune to marry into the Zhongyong Marquis household, to be cared for by my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and to be respected by my husband. I never expected to hope for something more. What happened to General Center in the end? Ouch. Why are you pinching me? After getting a taste of the sweetness, Shinshiji held me close in front of him, pinching the soft flesh around my waist again and again in frustration. You're bringing up another man at a time like this. As decisive as he was on the battlefield, Shinshiji was equally domineering in matters of the heart. I'm discussing something serious with you. I propped myself up and gently kissed his cheek. Sure enough, his temper comes and goes quickly. I remember that Zhao Shuxing and Center Yuan had a good relationship. One pursued civil affairs while the other pursued military affairs. They colluded with each other and gradually took control of the court. He has been imprisoned for treason and colluding with the enemy, and will be executed soon. Shinshiji told me that we achieved a great victory in this battle. Although he received rewards, he voluntarily surrendered his military authority. The northwest was conquered by him, while the northern frontier has always been guarded by the Marquis of Loyalty and Courage and the heir. The imperial power needs checks and balances, a truth I now understand even without him explaining it. So lately, your husband has been quite idle. If you want to do something mischievous, just say the word, I'll go along with it. You just assume I want to do something mischievous. If it's not mischief, why would you bring up other men to me? TSK. This understanding doesn't seem to have any issues either. The imperial exams are still over a month away, so I'm in no hurry to do anything bad. Let's wait for the rotten fruit to rot a little more thoroughly. On the other hand, Shinshiji handed over his military authority and now spends his days idling around like a street loafer, constantly following me around trying to get my attention. While I was calculating the servants' wages, he just rested his chin in his hands and stared blankly at me. Over time, even his mother-in-law found him annoying. Write a letter and have the Marquis return early, so we can send this guy to guard the frontier instead. Alright, when father and eldest brother return, I'll bring Yang over. With fewer accounts to settle, we can. I quickly covered that reckless mouth of his and pulled Shinshiji out the door. Are you familiar with the Minister of Rights? That fat, big-eared old man. Yes, that old man. Husband, these next few days, Have someone keep an eye on him for me. If anything happens, don't interfere. Shin Siji looked full of confusion, neither agreeing nor refuting, just lazily smiling at me. I rubbed my forehead and had to make my words clearer. I received news that Zhao Shusheng bribed the Minister of Rites in an attempt to obtain the imperial examination questions in advance. Shin Siji seemed very bothered by the fact that he and Zhao Shusheng were both considered as potential sons-in-law by the Su family back then, and he was the one who ended up being rejected. His eyes were filled with disgust, which he couldn't even hide. He promised the Minister of Rites that he would use my legitimate sister as a bargaining chip. It was visibly clear that the burly man shuddered violently. It took a long time to process before realizing that my understanding was correct. Scumbag. Truly a scumbag. That's exactly how Zhao Shusheng treated me in my previous life, after using wealth and connections to bribe officials. 10 years of diligent study became utterly worthless. The Su family's daughter is renowned in the capital for her breathtaking beauty, and that old fool, the Minister of Rites, has long had improper intentions toward her. Zhao Shusheng eagerly approached him. Like dirt meeting filth, they hit it off instantly. But in my previous life, I resisted to the death and ended up cutting off the old man's source of trouble with a single slash. Zhao Shusheng took advantage of the situation and used this to threaten the Minister of Rites, threatening to publicize his mutilated body otherwise. I just wonder if in this lifetime, my legitimate sister has the same desperate courage I had, and before that, something even more interesting happened. Perhaps because Center Yuan was gone, Shin Siji received a heavy reward, and the Zhao family turned their efforts to curry favor toward the in-laws. Under the pretext of celebrating the victory, they privately booked a private room, saying it was for a small gathering among us. Shin Siji took me there. In the private room, only Zhao Shusheng and his adoptive mother were present. For some reason, the legitimate sister did not attend. It had been months since they last met, and Zhao Shusheng seemed to have gained quite a bit of weight, losing some of the handsome charm of a dashing young man. Her adoptive mother, on the other hand, appeared much more radiant than in her previous life. When placed side by side, there was no visible age difference between them. During the gathering, Shin's adoptive mother was full of witty remarks, praising Shin Siji one moment and Zhao Shusheng the next, as if she wished she could mold the two of them together. In a few days, when Shunga tops the imperial examinations, the two of you, one excelling in literature and the other in martial arts, will undoubtedly become the leading talents among the rising stars at court. Shin Siji casually responded to her words with a few phrases, but the smile never reached his eyes. After 3 rounds of drinks, Shin Siji began to slur his words. I apologized and said I would return after helping him change his clothes. As soon as we left the private room, Shin Siji's dazed eyes immediately cleared up, and he pulled me into the room next door. I was just saying, how come someone who can drink 1,000 cups in the army without getting drunk is already done after just a few? Men aren't allowed to say they can't. He lightly tapped my head, pulled aside a painting in the private room, and peered through a small hole in the wall. You can do it like this. I was overjoyed. Shin Siji told me that this restaurant was my sister-in-law's business. From the moment he stepped in, he felt that Zhao Shusheng was up to no good, so he deliberately left to observe the situation. If you don't like him, just reject him outright. Why bother coming here? I'm curious. Everyone says Zhao Lang is as handsome as Panan. I wanted to see for myself. After saying this, he glanced back at me. He said in a flat tone, "You glanced at him 3 times earlier." I did not, didn't you? Shin Siji pointed to his own eyes, indicating he had observed it clearly. You rolled your eyes at him 3 times, and you've never rolled your eyes at me. A man's competitive spirit is just so inexplicable. I ignored him and tried to peek through the small hole to see the private room across from us. That one look completely stunned me. What's wrong? Shin Siji squeezed his head over, and the burly man trembled violently once again. On the way back, the hand around my waist was trembling. Shin Siji cursed and grumbled, bluntly saying it was an eyesore. Yang, did you see that? I saw it, I guess. Zhao's adoptive mother sat on Zhao Shusheng's lap, her arms wrapped around his neck, one looking down and the other looking up as they leaned close together. This is something Shin Siji does with me every day, so how could I not understand what they were doing? Moreover, in my previous life, I had already realized that this adoptive mother was not the same as that adoptive mother. The difference in age was merely a reflection of Zhao Shusheng's particular preference. But now, I didn't see anything. No, I have to go back quickly. My mind is too filthy. Let's wash it together. Shin Siji had lived for 20 years, and all his values were completely shattered within a few days. Perhaps bearing it alone was too painful. He simply couldn't handle it anymore. The young general, who had once been as swift as the wind, made a devastating decision on the spot. Let the world see something shocking together. The restaurant's wall collapsed without warning, exposing Zhao Shusheng and that, mother-son pair's passionate encounter to the public. Meanwhile, the Minister of Rights' residence was filled with mournful wails like ghostly howls. It turns out my elder sister is even more ruthless than I am. A golden hairpin was directly thrust into the chest of the Minister of Rights, blood flowing all over the ground, terrifying everyone in the mansion. The cause and the sequence of events are no longer very important. It was just some dirty business in the household of a weak scholar. Zhao Shusheng was disqualified from the imperial examinations, and his legitimate elder sister was imprisoned for stabbing the minister. In prison, she spoke without restraint, exposing Zhao Shusheng's dealings of bribing officials and buying off ministers. To investigate the matter, both Zhao Shusheng and his adoptive mother were imprisoned as well. Shin Siji, who was already full of malicious ideas and had been suppressing his disgust for several days, directly locked Zhao Shusheng and Madame Zhao in the same prison cell. The cell was at the far end of the corner, out of sight from others, but my legitimate elder sister could see them clearly. Shusheng, we've been completely ruined by that little wretch this time. If only we had given her more poison, it would have been better if she had just died on the minister's bed. Zhao Shusheng's face turned icy with rage as he punched the prison wall in frustration. I only married Su Wanyue for her family's wealth, so that you could have a free servant at your disposal. Who would have thought that she would turn out to be so useless? Giving such worthless trinkets as gifts and thinking it can help my career. The boasts she makes outside make me blush with shame. If she had been sensible and pleased the minister for a night, she might have become the top scholar's wife by now. A woman with no vision deserves to be outshone by a mere half-sister. Zhao Shusheng's harsh words, befitting a scholar, never repeated in their insults. Mother, don't worry, I've already given Minister Su Wanyue's personal handkerchief. When the time comes, as long as we insist she was the one who seduced him, we'll ensure not a speck of trouble falls on us. My elder sister was so angry that her eyes turned red. Having never been able to tolerate the slightest grievance in her life, she fainted before she could even utter a harsh word. During the public trial, all three parties insisted that everything originated from my elder sister's dream of becoming the top scholar, seduction of the minister, demanding the imperial examination questions, and later reneging and injuring someone. The silk handkerchief belonged to my elder sister. The bribe money came from the Su residence, and she was caught in the minister's bed. There has long been a joke in the streets about my elder sister calling herself the #1 scholar's wife. After several rounds of interrogation, even my father was implicated, yet Zhao Shusheng managed to come out completely unscathed. Sister, help me, please help me. When I saw my elder sister again, she had long lost her former arrogance. With her hair covering her face, I almost didn't recognize her. It was Zhao Shusheng. He offered me to the Minister of Rights, trading my innocence for his career. I did nothing wrong. I reported the crime and should not be imprisoned. And that old woman in the mansion, they've been doing disgusting things behind my back, spending my money, and still making me cook and do laundry. Sister, you are now the general's wife. Send soldiers in and have them killed. My elder sister kept holding my hand, urging me to believe her. She must have said these words to many people, and only came to me as a last resort, a woman who has tarnished her own and her husband's family's reputation. The Su family had long since severed ties with her, no matter how indulgent the stepmother usually is. She would not let her own daughter's affairs affect her son's official career. Sister, I told you long ago that Zhao Shusheng is not a good man, but why didn't you believe me? The elder sister froze for a moment, then brushed her hair aside and smiled bitterly. I know, you've come back too, haven't you? That bastard became the top scholar in our previous life because he offered you up, didn't he? Suddenly, I understood everything, but it was already too late. My elder sister's eyes gradually revealed a venomous glare as she gripped my wrist, gritting her teeth and resentfully saying, "Why, for 2 lifetimes now, why is it always you who wins?" I shook my head with a bitter smile and forcefully pried her hand away, because in both lifetimes, only you were competing for victory, while I only wanted to live my own life well. You wretched woman, the one who should be filthy is you. I will kill you. I want to do it again, this time. I will be the general's wife. My elder sister was saying things that only she could understand, and others simply thought she had gone mad. I'm actually quite grateful to her. After learning about the dirty secrets of the Zhao family, I also sought help from the Su family. My father turned a deaf ear. His eyes filled only with his top scholar son-in-law. The Zhao family's adoptive mother even flaunted herself right in front of me, shutting the gates of the top scholar's residence to show off her May-December romance in every possible way. It was my legitimate elder sister who brought closure to the past, giving me a chance at rebirth. The Yamen gate swung open. The person standing before the door had their back to me, hands clasped behind, with an upright posture and an imposing aura. Finished talking, Shen Siji turned around, his eyes filled with my reflection. Brother Sai. A term of endearment I once found a bit cloying was spoken in just a fleeting moment. Before I could even run up to him, Shen Siji strode over and pulled me into his embrace. Have you made up your mind? Yes, I have. We agreed that after meeting my elder sister, we would leave the capital and head to the northern border to take up our post. The Marquis is getting on in years, and it's not suitable for my elder brother and his wife to live apart for long periods. Shen Siji taking over the defense of the frontier on behalf of his father and brother is the best choice. On the day of departure, my mother-in-law held my hand, full of reluctance, while my sister-in-law and third brother kept stuffing things into our carriage. Every blade of grass is nurtured by the spring sun. The river and moonlight fill the landscape. Let go of one thought, and all burdens are lifted. The end.